He is transported to a realm where humanity has been annihilated and no one remembers him. After humanity triumphed in a gruesome war, Kai Sakuravento is dispatched to a parallel universe where humans were vanquished in that battle. Confronting an entity uncertain whether it's an angel or a demon, the hero is astonished to see this being requesting assistance from him, a human. In his world, humanity fought an unending war against 4 enemy races, but in this alternate world, no one knows who he is. Flashback: before that happens, Kai disembarks from his vehicle to survey the crypt for exactly 300 seconds. Impatiently, his companions await the completion of the task because, methodical as always, he doesn't compromise on a single second. Through his binoculars, he observes one of the pillars of the conflict instigated by the demons, who wield immense magical power. On the other side of the trench, angels and elves, considered half-human celestial beings, and among them spirits, are deeply involved in this war. Creatures with special types of bodies, along with mythical beasts such as dragons, ravage the battlefields with their unmatched ferocity. Together with humanity, all these beings initiated a widespread conflict known as the Great War of the 5 Races. Kai, as one of the soldiers of the Urza Federation, cannot allow this clash to reignite. That's why he relentlessly monitors the crypt where the demons were sealed. After completing the 300 seconds of observation, the young soldier returns to the vehicle, frustrated. Ashran remarks that no demon has escaped the seal in 100 years, but Kai emphasizes that their duty as the Human Protection Agency is to ensure that it never happens. Ashran asserts that there are 4 crypts like this one around the globe, and it doesn't help if they're the only ones taking this task seriously. Saki, the woman on the team, tries to soothe their friend by assuring him that everything is peaceful, but he refuses to let his guard down for even a moment. After the journey, they return to Vishal and the Urza Federation. During one of the training sessions, alongside an unconscious Ashran, Kai uses a mythical beast combat dummy and is cautioned by the system that it's extremely hazardous to fight an opponent of this caliber as a low-ranking soldier. Ignoring the warning, the soldier attacks the mechanical beast's ankle but inflicts no damage. When the dragon is about to swallow him, Saki turns off the robot and halts the combat training. Worried, she warns that he will end up dead if he continues at this reckless pace, but Kai believes he needs to push his boundaries to make the practice worthwhile. For these reasons and more, the girl thinks that this boy would have gone down in history if he had been born during the era of the Great War of the 5 Races, just like the Prophet Sid. Kai feels honored by the compliment but doesn't see himself worthy of such an accomplishment, despite the legend being highly regarded among humans. The girl cannot fathom that a single man vanquished these 4 heroes. Hero of the demonic race, the Dark Empress Vanessa. Hero of the wild god race, the Lord of Heaven Alfreya. Hero of the spirit race, the Spirit Sovereign Rikijin Kyoko, and hero of the Phantom Beast race, the Fang Emperor Wrath A. Despite his partner's disbelief, Kai insists that Sid emerged victorious from this battle due to the shining sword bestowed by the prophetic god Asura Soraka. Nevertheless, she points out that there are no photos or videos of the human hero, unlike the others, so she remains skeptical about his existence. That said, she goes to give Ashran a wake-up poke in the ribs and asks the guys what they want to do to celebrate Jean's promotion. Ashran suggests a bouquet of flowers, but Saki points out that Jean is being transferred to the royal capital of Urzak at 17, the youngest in history to be selected, so a few shabby flowers won't do justice to such an achievement. Speaking of her, Jean sends a message inviting Kai to meet her tomorrow morning at Terminal 9 in front of the cat statue, but asks him to keep it a secret from Saki and Ashran. The 2 friends start teasing him about this secret romance, so he gets riled up and says he's going for a run. The next day, he meets Jean because she will be transferred next week and doesn't want to miss seeing her friend before then. Besides, she thought he was on leave despite the uniform indicating otherwise. He explains that he did his morning training and came straight over, so she replies that Kai is the only guy who isn't intimidated by the idea of shopping with her, and that's what she likes about him. Jean's plan is to purchase a gift for Saki and Ashran before heading to Urzak, as she suspects that all 3 of them are likely considering the same gesture, and this will be their final meeting. Kai believes this is an overstatement because the promoted one will return after 2 years of kata training in Vishal. However, Jean remembers that by that time, Saki and Ashran will have completed their military service and will transition back to civilian life. She thinks that only Kai will remain in Urza until then, and the boy shares this view. Proud of his friend, he assures her that she will surpass even her father in her career, the head of the Urza headquarters. This has been Jean's dream since she was a child and has driven all her pursuits in life. With that said, as they continue their outing, the 2 stop to grab a bite to eat, while Jean ponders what to get for their friends. After deciding, she thanks Kai for his company. During their conversation, she recalls when the boy got lost in the demon crypt at 10 years old when his father took him there for inspection. When he got home that day, Kai said he saw Sid's sword. He vividly remembers that day, falling into an absolute void surrounded by terrifying creatures until, in his free fall, a shining sword illuminated the path and drew the young Kai Sakura to it. Despite the trauma, Kai never shared this story with anyone else, believing no one would believe him. Since that incident, he has felt a personal responsibility to ensure those demons never escape the crypt. Because of this mindset, Jean believes the young man will still be with the agency for the protection of humanity in 2 years. Speaking of which, she asks him what he thinks the future holds beyond those 2 years. Before he can respond, Kai witnesses the world around him disintegrating in a static distortion. Amidst this chaos, a system announces that global reincarnation has been activated. Kai is then transported to an alternate reality where the buildings in his city, Vishal, have been obliterated, replaced by a dark, war-torn environment. Above it all, a colossal demon emerges behind the ruins and attacks him with magic. Managing to evade death, and without a moment to contemplate, Kai rushes to his rifle and fires at the demon's new spell with a modified elven bullet, neutralizing the spell and startling his adversary. Enraged, the creature charges at him again, requiring Kai to use his exceptional dodging skills. He overcomes the obstacles and strikes the demon with his bayonet, but its tough skin renders the blade ineffective. Kai then fires at the demon with a modified draconic bullet that mimics the breath of mythical beasts, causing a massive explosion in the target's body. Kai takes pride in executing the moves he trained to defeat a demon. Outraged, another evil entity appears, unable to believe a human had defeated one of its kind. Kai realizes this demon can speak human language remarkably well. The demon comments that the easiest way to control a slave is by communicating in their language, shocking Kai and making him realize he must be considered the scum of this world. The demon senses danger in Kai and prepares a lethal spell until Saki arrives in the Urza Jeep, throws a flash grenade at the entity, and rescues her friend. Kai calls out to Saki, but she doesn't understand how this stranger knows her name. Similarly, when Kai approaches Ashran, he too is puzzled by the boy's familiarity. Without comprehending anything, the protagonist recalls that the three of them were part of the same unit at the Agency for the Protection of Humanity. However, Saki also doesn't recognize this agency because she is a soldier of the Resistance, the rebel human army. Increasingly perplexed, Kai inquires about what happened to this world. The girl explains that there was a prolonged conflict called the Great War of the Five Races, and humanity was defeated over 30 years ago. Each city in the world was overrun by the enemy races, and since then, the surviving humans have been hiding as best they can. According to Ashram, the other races are still battling over the conquered territories, and the Urza Federation was taken over by demons, forcing all inhabitants to flee. However, utilizing an underground area that remained intact after the war, humans created a refuge to live in. Kai questions how humanity lost this battle, and the two resistance soldiers explain that they were no match for such formidable creatures, each race having its own hero, unlike humans. Kai asks about the prophet Sid, but neither of them has any clue who that is. The lost boy claims he is the hero who defeated the other four races, but Ashran believes he wouldn't be living underground if this person truly existed. Around the three, the main troop of the underground city arrives. As some cities still resist, each has a garrison supervised by the main troop. According to Saki and Ashran, the commander of this troop and the resistance is seen as a savior by the people of the Urza Federation. His name is Jean, an empathetic and charismatic leader, embraced by human civilization among the commanders. Jean inquires about the identity of the unknown soldier, and as his comrades explain, Kai is left speechless, realizing that even his closest friend is unaware of who he is. Unable to let it go, the boy shouts Jean's name, recalling that they were shopping just moments earlier. The commander, perplexed by this story, states that he doesn't recognize this soldier, then turns away and heads to a scheduled meeting. Unsatisfied, Kai questions why his friend is pretending to be a man, knowing her dream as a daughter was always to surpass her father's career. Fallon, one of the senior subordinates, grabs Kai by the wrist, but Jean asks her to let him go. After the commander's departure, Saki inquires what's going on in the boy's head, and Ashran offers his rune for Kai to rest and collect his thoughts. Upon arriving at Ashran's home, the visitor to this world can't think of anything other than why all this is happening to him. No matter how much he reads the documents, the only missing records are his and Sid's. What Kai doesn't understand is that if Prophet Sid never existed, there shouldn't be the four crypts to seal the four races. The next day, Kai questions his old friends about the crypts, but they know nothing of the sort. Faced with this, Kai borrows a car and promises to return by noon despite Saki's protests. Ashran reflexively tosses the key to the stranger, and Kai heads for the chaotic ruins of Vishal until he reaches the crypt he monitored in the original world. As he approaches the entrance, he encounters Prophet Sid's sword and wields it. A voice from the weapon decrees that the bearer of this relic has now become the code holder. The sword then opens a gate, which transports Kai to a mysterious platform. Upon climbing the stairs, he finds a half-angel, half-demon girl chained up. With some effort, the woman manages to say her name is Rin despite the bizarre situation she finds herself in. Kai doesn't want to risk freeing a demon, but since he can't just leave her behind, he hopes she won't attack. He uses his blade to break the chain, but nothing happens. He tries his rifle, but even a shot causes no damage. Kai imagines he could use the sword he found in the cemetery, and though it wasn't his intention, Sid's weapon appears in his hands, signaling it's the way. With a simple strike, the chains shatter, freeing the prisoner. Regaining consciousness, Rin is startled and pulls away from the human's lap, then angrily shouts the name Vanessa, demanding her return and claiming she hasn't lost this fight. Ignoring Kai, she declares she cannot be defeated by a mere lackey demon and attacks a human. After dodging the first spell, Kai sees a large mass of magical energy forming in front of him, ready to fly at him. When the system's voice indicates that the code bearer must cut off the fate of death using his blade, the young human slashes the entity's spell in half, leaving her incredulous. Rin questions how a weak demon could destroy her attacks, so Kai turns his back to prove he is human, as he has neither wings nor a tail. Realizing the situation, Rin apologizes for her behavior, explaining that her hatred for demons makes her act impulsively. As Rin claims not to be a demon, Kai asks about her species, but the woman doesn't seem comfortable with the question and asks to leave it aside. Accepting the terms, Kai now wants to know where they are, but Rin herself doesn't know as she was fighting Vanessa and simply ended up there, alarmed. The person asks if she is referring to the Dark Empress and heroine of demons, noting that this is no ordinary opponent. Rin confirms that she can destroy an entire army of demons, but emphasizes what she just witnessed from this young boy, who destroyed one of her spells. Kai was about to explain that the sword he carried was responsible when a robotic woman announces that the singular destiny entity has awakened, and that its threat level to the newly established world is enormous. Because of this, the robot activates the ceiling through the last risers. With that, the machine attacks Kai and Rin with all its power. As the structure around them collapses, they try to keep their distance, but the machine uses its portal to reach its targets and seize Rin. After doing so, it initiates Code Zero, where magical orbs are summoned and harm the victim's body. Seeing this, Kai refuses to remain still and uses Sid's sword to cut the metallic claw holding the singular destiny entity in half. The machine is shocked upon seeing the forbidden sword, and while Rin sees Sid's image reflected in Kai, the boy teleports them both to a distant safe location. Rin confesses her fear with a strong hug to her savior, a gesture to human returns. Analyzing the situation, he asks if the woman has any companions, and indeed she has none. In fact, it's the first time someone has done something like this for her. Both celestial spirits and beasts said that Rin is not like them, and the demons were the cruelest, ending in a duel with their leader, Vanessa. Similarly, Kai identifies with the entity's life story, as no one remembers who he is in this world. As far as he knew, humans had won the Great War of the Five Races, but now he sees the city that was once his home crumbled into ruins. Rin admits she didn't know that, especially since just before fighting Vanessa, humans were starting to win the war after the appearance of a hero. Hearing this, Kai asks if the girl knows Sid, but she doesn't remember anyone by that name. Still, a man is pleased to have a companion and share a familiar story with someone. As they begin their journey, Rin faints, making the boy carry her on his shoulder. He says they need to pass through the city, and though she generally doesn't trust humans, she trusts Kai, so she goes with him. Later, already lying in bed, Kai feels the weight of his own body after the exhausting day. As if that weren't enough, on the way to the city, Rin panicked in the car, and though she can hide her wings from people, she still draws much attention with her strange behavior. Hearing Rin sing in the shower, Kai never imagined that other races knew how to sing. Suddenly, she runs out in a towel to alert him that the water has stopped flowing. Speaking of which, she considers humans very unfair for having hot water to bathe in, while all her life she had to bathe in the cold waters of rivers and lakes. Furthermore, Kay's bed is so soft, while she spent her entire life sleeping on underbrush and rocks. Nonetheless, as she now observed on the surface, this human city had decayed into ruins, just as the man had mentioned. Even he struggles to believe he exists in a world where the historical results of the Great War have been reversed. Rin wagers they will discover a way out of there and return to their original world. For now, hope is the only thing sustaining them. When it's time to sleep, Rin lies in a warm bed for the first time while Kai tries to rest on the floor as best he can. However, his rest is interrupted when the girl alerts him to a strong magical presence in the vicinity, firmly stating that a demon is nearby. In fact, the city's public address system announces an enemy attack is occurring and all civilians must evacuate. Stepping into the street, Kai laments that even one of humanity's last refuges is in jeopardy, confirming his belief that his race is trapped with no one to rescue them. However, from what he experienced yesterday, he believes he might be the only person capable of at least mimicking Sid in wielding the forbidden sword. Armed with this trump card, he heads into battle. Meanwhile, Saki and Ashran are already on the front lines firing at the demons, but the creature's tough armor prevents them from being injured. Ashran asks his comrade to grab the machine gun. On her way, the girl is almost killed by one of the enemies, but Kai appears just in time to save Saki. After striking the demon hard, he tells her to use water against the opponents. When they absorb the liquid, their stone bodies become heavy, preventing them from flying. After that, it's a matter of bombarding the enemies until they turn to ashes. Speaking of which, it seemed like it was Ashan's turn to perish, but Kai manages to help just in time with Sid's sword in hand. With Ren's help, the duo manages to take down the last opponent, and the extraordinary ability of that entity makes the human realize she could indeed face Vanessa. Even so, part of the city is devastated, and buildings housing the population are in flames. A terrified Saki and Ashan arrive with 1,000 questions about how Kai was able to do all that. He reveals that he came from a world where humans won this conflict, and the fighting style from his world, along with special ammunition or technological advancements, helped secure this victory. The two fighters from this universe were about to question the crazy story, but suddenly Ashan is informed by the surveillance team that 2 demon scouts escaped. Without delay, the fighter runs to alert headquarters, already foreseeing the worst because now the demons know where the refuge is and will return with even more units next time. Saki asks Kai to accompany them to HQ because Jin could use his strength in this war. On the way, Kai asks if the rebel army HQ of the Urza Federation isn't in the ruined royal capital, but Ashen believes that precisely because of this, the demons would never think humans are there. Saki explains that this idea originated from the former Commander Jin's father, who retired 2 years ago due to an injury, passing the title to his son sometime later. At headquarters, the officers are incredulous that the man and the entity came from an alternate world where the war was won. Jin wants to know the connection between her and Kai in this different world since he spoke to her as if he knew her. Kai then explains they were childhood friends and Jin always said she wanted to be like Og and Jur. Hearing these names, Jin is astonished and abruptly ends the meeting. That night, Fallon knocks on Kay's door to inform him that the commander is waiting for him. Upon arrival, the boy sees his friend without her male disguise, and she reveals that only Fallon and the veteran directors know she is a woman. She then expresses surprise that Kai knows the nicknames of her father and grandfather, Og and Jur. For this reason, despite not believing everything, she considers the possibility that the stranger is telling the truth and asks for his help to contact the other 5 resistance centers and encircle the demons intending to invade the Mio Vashal refuge. Rin argues that even if the mission succeeds, it would only provoke the demons further, who would retaliate with even more force. But Jin sees no other option. Thus, Kai suggests they attack the royal capital, targeting the Dark Empress Vanessa. Believing the man to be mad, the commander reminds him that this demon was responsible for wiping out the entire capital defense army 30 years ago and seizing the palace. In response, Kai mentions Sid's tale, who single-handedly defeated the demon's champion, and feels he can do the same. Doubtful of the young warrior, the commander asks why he seems so eager to risk his life for this mission. Kai emphasizes that he saw Ashran and Saki risking their lives in battle, and even if he returned to his original world, he wouldn't be able to face them if he left them to die in the alternate world. Finally, he devises a plan based on the belief that demons are more concerned with other races than humans, so most of their forces are stationed near the borders, with probably only about 10% of their total forces in the royal capital. He suggests that while he fights Vanessa, the rebel army keeps these 10% occupied. Jin agrees they can hold the enemies for a while, but fears most of her troops will be dead before reaching the palace. In light of this, Fallon suggests they invade from underground because there is a subterranean railway line behind the palace that the royal family use as an escape route. Surprised, Jin asks why she wasn't informed about this railway before, and the fighter replies that Jin's father didn't want her to risk herself to that extent, so he asks the subordinates to omit this strategy. With that said, the commander announces a meeting to finally retake the Urza Federation. As preparations for the attack near completion, Rin reflects on her hatred for demons, spirits, mythical beasts, celestials, and humans. However, she despises herself the most for being a mix of all of them. Yet she acknowledges that Kai has never feared her, even accepting her, something she had never experienced before being used to hatred. Rin deeply wishes that this human does not die. As the battle vehicles depart, the rebel army of the Urza Federation heads toward the government palace through an underground passage to launch their attack. While the main group keeps the demons occupied, Saki and her team need to free the captives in the basement and take down Vanessa at the top of the hierarchy. Jin gives the orders and Saki sees in her leader the hope for victory. Her only worry is that she will be in the group facing the demon head-on. In a sudden outburst, she questions if the 4 members in the armored vehicle can complete such a difficult mission. Kai emphasizes that the priority is to reach Vanessa quickly and hold out until reinforcements arrive, not to storm the palace like Rambo. He trusts only Saki and Ashran to accompany him. Rin pats Saki's head to calm her, and to her surprise, Saki does calm down. Rin points out that Saki is strong enough to face the enemy forces. Although Vanessa is a tough adversary, if the Empress of Darkness refuses to die, Rin is ready to self-destruct and take the demon with her. Unfortunately, this doesn't reassure Saki. Similarly, Ashran admits his worry since the palace's state is unknown, especially with so many rebels moving around, increasing the chance of being discovered by enemies. Kai reminds them that demons are sensitive to magic and that humans lacking magical power could stay hidden until they reach their target. Ashran feels a bit relieved and mentions that all rebels will be remembered and perhaps even rewarded for this mission. Kai comments that Ashran seems stronger than the one from his original world, to which Ashran questions if that's a compliment. As they reach the end of the underground passage, Jean gathers the rebel army and thanks them for their trust. She praises their bravery and loyalty, acknowledging that many may feel insecure with little preparation time. However, she reminds them that the Urza Federation's resistance has faced years of battles against demonic domination, leaving each soldier battle-hardened. This resilience is key to freeing humanity from darkness. With that, the soldiers raise their weapons and shout a battle cry. After blowing up the passage exit, they reach the surface and see the government palace surrounded by demonic forces. The first act of defense is a freezing spell, but Kai knows how to dispel it. He shoots the demon and gets close enough to slash its skin with his sword. That explodes the enemy, and as soon as the first demon falls, more emerge to defend the palace. The Jewel of the Urza Federation fires a lightning bullet, taking down several at once. Ashran, in disbelief, questions if Kai was responsible for the massacre. Kai explains he used anti-group ammunition from his world. A mysterious stranger asks Rin to sense Vanessa's presence, and when the entity points to the Empress of Darkness's location, Kai decides to search the highest floor on the north side to avoid drawing attention. Jean plans to invade the palace using the emergency stairs on the south side with her team, while Group 1 guards the entrance to prevent demons from entering and Group 2 rescues prisoners in the basement. During the invasion, Fallon finds it strange that Kai calls the lightning bullet a projectile without pulling a trigger, but doesn't dwell on it as they climb the stairs. Rin identifies an imp, a small demon that summons large ones. A huge creature appears, grabbing one of the rebels, but Fallon quickly cuts off its fingers. She orders everyone to keep climbing while she holds off the demon. At the entrance, Group 1 fights off attackers and Group 2 reaches the prisoners in the basement. The main team marches on with their commander until she is struck by an electric trap, causing alarm among the soldiers. However, Jeannie emerges unharmed and reassures everyone, revealing she is protected by elven technology and her holy light suit. A huge demon approaches and Jean orders Kai and his unit to pursue Vanessa while she battles the demon with her squad, the Knight of the Holy Light. Meanwhile, Kai's group, wearing Rin's magical armbands that hide their presence, encounters a colossal creature. Seki's rifle trembles, but Rin calms her to prevent noise. Hidden by an invisible barrier, the humans breathe easy as the beast passes without noticing them. They head to a palace room with circuit breakers, where Ashran states that if Kai and Rin fail to defeat Vanessa, he and Saki will cut the lights to aid their escape. Shortly after, as Kai and Rin proceed, the palace alarm sounds despite Rin's barrier still working. Kai deduces the infrared sensors are still active and they hasten their pace. They meet a demon who insults Rin's wings and hints that Vanessa is intrigued by the invasion, though he doesn't directly answer Kai's questions about the surveillance system. Kai ignores the taunts and asks the demon for help finding their heroine. The monster, eager for a fight, attacks with fireballs. Rin quickly shields Kai with her wings and dodges the flames. She then isolates Kai from the battle with an ice wall, allowing him to continue towards Vanessa. The demons, puzzled by the mixed sense of angel, elf, dwarf, spirit, dragon, and even demon on Rin, ask about her identity, but she is unsure and only knows she despises them. Kai enters a throne room where Vanessa greets him, causing him to tremble. Meanwhile, Jean battles a massive demon and struggles against its armor until she transforms her weapon into a moon longbow, piercing the demon with a powerful arrow. The demon notes that Jean's use of elven magic is draining her life, suggesting she has chosen death to ensure humanity's victory. Jean confirms this by killing the demon. Another enemy attacks her, but Fallon arrives in time to fend it off. The three-headed hellhound, recognizing Fallon, mentions a human known as Dragonar who wields a dragon's fang in battle. Meanwhile, Vanessa asks Kai if he will put down his weapon like many others did upon learning that the demon leader is a succubus, allowing her to seduce him to pass the time. Kai rejects the offer, stating that demons are driven by madness and violence. Vanessa laughs, acknowledging his resistance as may fall prey to her charms. She then asks if the human present is the rebel commander in elven attire, but Kai says he is merely an outsider from a world where Vanessa was defeated. Curious, Vanessa inquires who defeated her, and Kai reveals it was the humans who face even greater threats. Vanessa laughs harder, finding it amusing that she was killed by a human. Kai clarifies it wasn't just any human, but the prophet Sid. At this, Vanessa loses her composure, as the name evokes unpleasant memories. She then attacks Kai with magic, but he easily dispels it. Without hesitation, he counterattacks and slashes her chest, only to find it was an illusion. The real Empress of Darkness nearly blasts him from behind. Vanessa praises his skill and his weapon, which mellifies magic and unleashes a dragon-like attack. This makes her start to believe that this person truly came from another world. Cautious, she calls upon Glory, a purgatory of flames which incinerates the wall behind the human. However, Kai escapes. Irritated, she vows to end the fight with a chaos explosion, which shatters the building's floor in a devastating blast. High in the skies, Vanessa believes no one can survive this attack unless they are a hero of the 5 races. Yet Kai stands before her, frightened but alive, imagining Sid's sword saved him again. Rin arrives, wounded and fearing Kai is dead, until a portal opens in the sky. Metallic claws grab Vanessa and a robotic voice announces the detection of unexpected fluctuations in the demon heroine. Hearing the name Sid, the robot initiates an excision to erase Vanessa's code from the world. But the Empress of Darkness counters with the Glory ability. Despite taking heavy damage, the robot retreats into the portal, leaving Kai and Rin terrified by Vanessa's power. Rin notes that Vanessa has always been strong, but this otherworldly version is even more terrifying. The Empress, irritated by her unhealed wounds, remains determined to crush her 2 opponents. Rin realizes she can't defeat Vanessa alone. Before Vanessa attacks, Rin flies at her, tackling her, and tells Kai to run away because she can't hold Vanessa back for long. Rin creates a shadow prison barrier around herself and Vanessa to stall for time. Vanessa recognizes the magic as weak spirit magic and easily breaks free, sending Rin flying. Before Vanessa can finish her off, Kai charges at her. He manages to block most of her attack, but he still ends up severely injured. Rin is devastated, believing Kai is dead, while Vanessa taunts her, asking if she plans to avenge Kai or flee. Fed up with Vanessa, Rin vows to make her pay. She unleashes her full power, transforming and displaying traits of all 5 races. Amused, Vanessa notes Rin's newfound strength, but questions why Rin didn't use it earlier to help Kai escape. Rin, no longer playing games, lands a solid punch on Vanessa, matching her power. However, Vanessa was only toying with her, and finds Rin's chaotic form intriguing, questioning whether Rin was afraid to reveal her true nature or feared being labeled a monster. Rin starts to cry, but Vanessa tells her that she only has herself to blame. Vanessa, being the demon hero, will do whatever she wants. Rin had the chance to save Kai, but hesitated out of fear, which led to Kai's death. As much as Rin hates to admit it, Vanessa is right. Kai's death is her fault. However, that doesn't matter anymore because nothing can bring Kai back. Now Rin just wants to die and plans to take Vanessa with her. She grabs Vanessa's hand to cast a curse, and before Vanessa realizes it, droplets of blood start to seep from her skin, draining her life force. No amount of defense can stop this. The droplets will keep falling until both Vanessa and Rin die. Normally, this would mean defeat for Vanessa, but she has one last trick. Rin suddenly collapses, and Vanessa explains that the curse relies on the caster's magic power. Although Rin would usually have enough magic to succeed, they're in Vanessa's territory, where she set up defenses against other races. A large cursed circle affects spirits, magical beasts, and celestials, making it 3 times as potent on Rin, who's a mix of all 3. It's amazing that Rin lasted this long, but now she can avenge Kai. She simply sits and apologizes for failing him. Vanessa is fed up with Rin's pitiful attempts, so she gets ready to finish her with a final blow. However, just before Rin could be defeated, the attack is deflected by Kai, who is surprisingly still alive. Kai reassures Rin that she did nothing wrong and that her fight with Vanessa gave him enough time to wake up. Rin and Vanessa are both shocked to see Kai alive, so Vanessa asks how he survived an attack that should have been fatal. Kai explains that he used the code holder to shield himself from the blast, marking the 2nd time it saved him during this battle, but he keeps this information to himself and gets ready to face Vanessa again. Vanessa feels insulted that Kai would dare to challenge her and reminds him that he only survived by luck. Her last attack almost killed him, and Rin's interference was the only reason he wasn't finished off. Kai responds that he's determined to win because Rin risked her life for him, and he plans to do the same for her. Intrigued, Vanessa asks if Kai has a plan to defeat her, as she is curious to see what he can do. Humans always claim they will show her their potential, but she has never been impressed. The spirit hero, the celestial hero, and the beast hero are all annoyances to her, but she at least respects their strength. When it comes to humans, she finds no one worthy of her respect except for Kai, who claims he can be strong enough to become humanity's hero. Kai tells her that he doesn't want to be a hero but agrees to show her the potential of humans. He will now face Vanessa as a representative of humanity. Although Vanessa doubts Kai can defeat her, she decides to take him seriously and uses her magic to summon a small meteor to crush him. However, Kai easily slices it apart using the code holder. Impressed by his ability to cut through her magic, Vanessa is not finished yet. She begins casting hundreds of hellfire spells. While she does this, Kai contacts Ashran to cut the power, plunging the building into darkness. Vanessa realizes she can't see, even with a flame on her shoulder, and can't sense Kai because he has no magic. Yet she targets his sword with her hellfire attack as it's full of magic. As the dust clears, she is shocked to find that Rin was holding the code holder and Kai is already behind her. Kai's years of training finally pay off as he attacks Vanessa and has Rin throw him his sword so he can defeat her. As Vanessa collapses to the ground, her body begins to fall apart from the damage she has endured. Rin and Kai notice that something is wrong with her, and it's at this moment that Vanessa's memories finally come back to her. She now remembers everything about Sid and the world's reincarnation. She can't believe she allowed herself to fall victim to it, even though Sid had warned her it might happen. Upon hearing that Vanessa knows about Sid, Kai asks her to share everything she knows. Vanessa explains a phenomenon Sid called the world reincarnation. Someone triggered this reincarnation to change the course of history, and Kai must find this person. It's likely to be one of the other three heroes. Sid had predicted the world reincarnation, which is why he entrusted Vanessa with his sword to prevent it from being stolen by the enemy. The sword is the only key to fixing the changes made to this world. Kai questions why Vanessa and Sid would work together when they are supposed to be enemies. Vanessa admits that although she once fought Sid, he earned her respect as a strong fighter, and they ended up working together. There is much about the previous reality that Kai doesn't know, so Vanessa warns him about the Zero Code, a type of magic that is extremely difficult to handle. She also tells Kai that he did well against her, and she is impressed with his strategy to use the darkness, as well as his courage and fighting skills. She is now convinced that this is what Kai meant by human spirit, but she still feels frustrated about losing to him in this way. She can't make excuses, but she would love to face Kai again. So she tells him that next time they meet, she'll have a lot more fun with him. Kai is speechless after hearing this from Vanessa, but the exhaustion from the fight soon catches up with him and he falls to his knees. Despite this, he feels relieved to have defeated Vanessa. News of Vanessa's defeat quickly spreads among the human survivors and they gather at the Urza Foundation to begin reclaiming it. Things are finally looking up for humanity. While everyone celebrates this victory, Kai is deep in thought about his next move. Rin asks if something is wrong and he shares his concerns. He had thought that something happened to them, making them the only ones who remember the old world. But if Vanessa's words are true, the world changed and they remain the same. Rin wishes things could go back to how they were as she finds this new world scary. Kai agrees but doesn't know how to change things back. Just then, Jean approaches Kai and Rin to express her gratitude. Though the city is in ruins, the humans could reclaim it thanks to Kai and Rin's efforts. Jean thanks them on behalf of the rebel army. Jean can't help but notice that Kai and Rin don't seem very happy despite their victory. Kai tells her he is actually relieved they won because he doubts he could beat Vanessa if they face her again. With Vanessa gone, humans can now rebuild the city, possibly making it better than ever. However, Jean feels that the restoration should be led by those who experienced the Federation's initial fall to the demons, not by her. When Kai and Rin ask what she plans to do if she won't help rebuild, Jean explains there are 3 other federations, Io, Euron, and Schultz, that were conquered by other races. Each federation has a human rebel army fighting back. Jean intends to unite these rebels into a larger force. News of Vanessa's defeat has already spread, motivating humans across the continent. Jean hopes Kai and Rin will join her in aiding the other rebel armies. By working together, they might achieve what K's original world's humans did and overthrow the other races. Jean will lead the soldiers, ensuring Kai and Rin have all the support they need, and she wants Kai to fight alongside them. Kai looks surprised for a moment, so Jean quickly adds that he will be well rewarded for his heroic efforts. It's not that Kai doesn't want to help humanity win the war. He was just reflecting on how mature this version of Jean seems. In his reality, Jean was an amazing person but had a childish side, doing things like calling him during training, asking him out on shopping trips, and worrying about her future with friends. It's hard for Kai to imagine this Jean doing those things. Kai agrees to join Jean in fighting the other races and freeing humanity. They shake hands as a sign of cooperation and head to the ground floor. Jean addresses the soldiers, asking if they've rested well. The soldiers, full of energy, are excited because it's the first time they've slept without fear of demon attacks. They're thrilled to have reclaimed Urza. Jean then outlines the plan to reclaim the other federations. Meanwhile, Kai talks to Rin, telling her he plans to end the war of the 5 races himself. If this world lacks a hero to save it, he will step up and be humanity's champion. He also vows to find the person responsible for the world's reincarnation and restore it to normal. As Rin fled from the ominous machine pursuing her, she briefly imagined a hero saving her, though it was just a fleeting fantasy. Ashran, aboard the rebels' armored vehicle, shivered, fearing he'd catch a cold before reaching the Io Federation. Jean led the convoy of vehicles with little tolerance for complaints, while Seiki reminded them of the urgent plea for help from other federations. Their convoy carried humanity's last hope. Kai hoped the capital was rebuilt by the time they arrived, and Rin prayed the city was safe from demons. Before leaving Urzak, the fighters had organized to rebuild the crucial region for humanity. But Rin sensed demons closing in, forming a barrier around the central palace. Venice's sister soon identified the one who had sent her sibling back to hell. Kai shielded himself from a demon attack using his Code-Bearer ability, but Rin had to step in to protect him. The demon, Heimeril, introduced herself, and Kai felt her presence was as powerful as Venice's. She believed Venus's defeat was due to a series of miracles, and that it wouldn't have occurred if she had been at the battle. Kai suspected she sought revenge for her sister, but Heimeril laughed, revealing that Venice's absence elevated her to the top of the demon hierarchy, despite her affection for the Dark Empress. She was actually grateful to the human for getting rid of Vanessa. She then brought up the business matters she came to discuss. Heimeril mentioned that if the demons united, they could retake the capital whenever they wanted, but they were letting the humans keep Urzak intentionally. The deal was to allow the humans to hold the city in exchange for a truce, and the fighter agreed to relay the proposal to his commander. Heimeril mocked Rin, telling the chaotic entity to stop staring at her, which enraged the being. Heimeril hoped the humans would fight against the other 3 races, planning to use them to attack while the demons recover from their recent defeat. She openly admitted this and promised the soldier a kiss if he succeeded in his mission. She also warned them to be cautious of Lord Alfreya and the Celestial Lands, who had been acting oddly. After this, Kai mentioned in the armored vehicle that the reconstruction unit was responsible for a dangerous Urzak, and being part of the expedition unit, he and the other team members had to work with the Io Federation to defeat the Celestials, Elves, Dwarves, Fairies, and Angels. Kai believed these races were more cunning and cowardly than humans, with their powerful magical items for war. While humans saw demons as monsters, the Celestials were like superior beings. Meanwhile, Jean informed everyone over the radio that they would stop to rest in 2 miles. Suddenly, Rin warned of a mythical beast approaching. Kai alerted all vehicles as a dragon descended from the skies, its massive wings stirring the air, while the humans responded with their automatic rifles. Despite this, the mystical creature's resilient hide left it unscathed as it advanced, soon poised to strike down the first armored vehicle with its tail. It wasn't until a lightning-fast bullet was unleashed, followed by a coordinated assault with Rin, that the adversary sustained significant damage. Though not fatal, it was enough to force the dragon to retreat. At that moment, Jean ordered the entire convoy to halt to rescue groups 29 and 30, which had been attacked by the mythical creature. Later, during the rest period, Kai felt uneasy about occupying such a large tent with only Rin. However, she would likely feel tense around unfamiliar humans, which may explain why Jean allowed her to stay alone with him. Just then, the commander arrived with Fallon to express gratitude for Kay's excellent work on the hilltop, explaining that this tent was reserved for the High Command, with 2 soldiers acting as the commander's bodyguards. Fallon then called Kai, assigning him to the interior guard, as Jean risked being revealed as a woman if she stayed too long with another woman, needing to remove her armor to sleep. The trusted officer instructed the soldier not to make any sudden moves upon seeing the commander in her casual attire. Kai felt insulted as a professional soldier on duty, but as he entered, reality began to dawn on him. Rin was giving Jean a back massage to alleviate her pain, and Kai seized the opportunity to comment on how challenging it must be to maintain the pretense of being a man. Shifting the topic, he mentioned that he hadn't anticipated encountering a mythical beast in the Urza Federation, speculating that they might have come to explore the area after hearing of the Dark Empress's fall. Jean reassured her subordinate, reminding him that defenses had been established in the royal capital and that the post wouldn't be easily overtaken. She mentioned she moved around a lot in her sleep, warning the soldier in case she accidentally kicked him during the night. The tent was spacious but didn't have room for 3 in the bed. At dawn, the convoy set off to continue its mission. Ashran figured Kai didn't get much sleep being the commander's bodyguard. Exhausted, Kai agreed while watching the scenery. Rin noticed a structure resembling the Great Wall of China, and Saki explained it was the border wall, indicating they were near the Io Federation, which Jean confirmed over the radio. The convoy's destination was the 8th city, Cassiopeia, near the regional army's headquarters. By late afternoon, they passed through the ruins of once thriving cities. Sekai raided her rifle, eager to strike any Celestials, but Kai reminded her that humans and Celestials look similar, so she could accidentally shoot an ally. The commander ordered the convoy to stop and continue on foot. Rin gathered local fruits despite Kei's concern about their safety. Though the fruit made her tongue numb, Rin loved the taste, dismissing Kei's suspicion of poison by saying she had eaten it before in the elf forest. Jean explained that the forest had buried a human city due to the celestial invasion. When the convoy arrived in Cassiopeia, they were warmly welcomed by the locals and soldiers, a reception so warm that it suggested the threat might be more serious than anticipated. One of the men steps forward and introduces himself to the commander as Zephyr Bakkenhain, advisor to Cassiopeia. He mentions that the victory of the Knight of the Sacred Light has spread hope throughout the Io Federation. Zephyr then greets Fallen, expressing his admiration for joining a legendary rebel soldier like her. Though she humbly disagrees, not considering herself old enough for such a title. Jean asks to be taken to Dante, the city's commander. On the way, Zephyr inquires about what Phelan knows of Dante, and she shares that he is Dantgelf Alighieri, a descendant of Io Federation royalty who views himself as an emperor. Zephyr agrees with her assessment, acknowledging that Dante is a jealous and distrustful man who sees Jean as a threat. However, Zephyr also asks the commander to recognize that Cassiopeia celebrates her arrival, even if Dante does not. They are soon greeted by Kuberi, the assistant commander, who informs them that all matters must go through her first. Upon entering Dun's office, he complains about the reinforcements' late arrival, accusing Jean of intentionally delaying. Jean explains that their convoy was attacked by a mythical beast, causing delays, but Dante dismisses her explanation and questions why she is in another country after reclaiming her royal capital, suspecting she aims to steal Io's army to enhance her glory. The comment is aimed squarely at the commander, but she stays composed, explaining that Dante himself requested her force's help. He replies that it was his subordinates acting on their own, but the commander suspects he's still resistant to being dominated by celestial beings. She asserts that individual glory is insignificant compared to the present danger. She advises the self-proclaimed emperor that credit for repelling the invaders belongs to neither of them, but to the people and their army. Finally, she bluntly tells Dante that if he desires honors, he should act accordingly. After this tense exchange, the reinforcements join the Io officers. Zephyr informs them that the Elf Forest, Dwarf Village, Fairy Hideout, and Angel Court are considered unexplored by humans as they have no idea where the celestial hero is. Jean takes charge of the search for Alfrea, impressing Dante's subordinates, who start to envy her bravery. She requests reinforcements from the Io army, but the local leader refuses. Anticipating his stubbornness, Jean declares that she came to lay down her life for those defending their land, gaining the trust and respect of the Federation's soldiers. That night in their camp, the Urza army suffers through a terrible dinner. Kai's group discusses Dang's assistant Kuberi, as Rin notices something strange about her. At dawn, the soldiers head to the Elf Forest. Dan remarks to his loyal assistant that Jean is a reckless commander, with Kuberi, as usual, agreeing, irritated that the other soldiers are inspired by the intruder's recklessness. When Jean returns from her expedition, she intends to create a map of the forest and organize a strategic meeting the following day. The commander discloses the elves' patrol routes based on tracks they discovered the previous day, and this intelligence enables the initiation of an assault against the Celestials. Although the Io soldiers are eager for battle, Dante is far from happy to see his troops being influenced by Jean's charisma. Kuberi advises her leader to achieve a significant accomplishment to secure his status as emperor, suggesting that he personally lead the soldiers in the Elf Forest. Embracing the idea, Dante informs his advisor that he has already deployed a flying unit to scout the Elf Forest. Zephyr believes this could cause tension in the coordination between the Urza and Io armies, but Dante is unconcerned. Additionally, he orders this operation to remain confidential. Meanwhile, Rin suspects that Dante's assistant commander, Kuberi, may not actually be human. Meanwhile, at the top of an odd structure, a strange figure with a metallic doll on its back approaches some clerics. They try to defend themselves, but the Great Elder is paralyzed and another mage is knocked down, though he survives the fall. An elf wakes up in a cabin and hears several voices in her mind through telepathy. The voices are relieved that Priestess Riran is alive, but they are still very worried about the Great Elder. Riran asks everyone to stay calm, promising to explain everything as soon as she meets with the fairies and dwarves. One voice asks what to do with the captured humans, but the priestess didn't even know about this. As for Jean, the last contact with Dan was yesterday morning when communications were cut off and no one knows where he is. Kai thinks Dante is being influenced by someone and quickly suspects his assistant Kuberi, imagining she might be a spy for the elves. If that's true, there could be more enemies within Io's army, making it important for Urza's unit to investigate. They find dozens of idle rifles scattered on the ground, possibly indicating that Dante and his battalion walked into a trap. A magical circle is drawn on a nearby tree, though Jean doesn't find this trap particularly difficult to notice. However, Kai points out the real danger above them. Looking up, Jean sees countless leaves, each with a different magical circle, and realizes the intelligence of the celestial beings. If Kai hadn't pointed it out, she might have mistaken the circles for sunlight filtering through. Kai mentions that there were records in his world about this technique, which allowed him to recognize it in advance. He mentions that elves set many traps close together. Rin detects the scent of an elf nearby, putting the group on high alert. Following Kei's lead, the group questions if he truly knows the way, but he reassures them that Rin has special training to sense magic. Guided by the scent, the team reaches a ruined structure, where the scent suddenly vanishes, triggering a teleportation spell that transports them to another part of the forest. Saki accuses Ashran of touching her Jiyat, but he insists she was the one brushing against him. Fallon orders them to stay quiet, scanning the surroundings. Suddenly, a fairy appears, crashes into Ashran's leg, and after recovering, asks which forest he came from, mistaking him for an elf. When he explains they are humans, the fairy flees in fear of being eaten, and quickly reaches an elf-guarded village. As the humans arrive, the elves ready their arrows, but their leader orders them to stand down. The elven leader, surprised that humans activated the portal, exchanges words with Jean, who recognizes her as Kubari, Dante's assistant commander. Jean inquires about Dun's fate. Kubari informs them that everyone is alive, but they've inhaled dust from a colony of paralyzing plants, leaving them immobile for days. Jean demands the prisoners' release, but the elf insists the humans must fight against the angels. Kai questions this, noting elves and angels have been allies, but Kubari reveals they were betrayed. Ririn awaits them, so they follow the elf to the village. When they meet the priestess, she notes it's the first time humans have entered the elven village, but it doesn't mean they're welcome. Curious, she asks if the Holy Light Knight and his men truly defeated Vanessa, the Empress of Darkness. Jean confirms, adding that the armor she wears is an elven garment found 10 years ago after defeating demons. With no elves harmed, Ririn lets it go and proposes a deal. If the prisoners are freed, Jean and her troops must rescue the Great Elder from Lord Alfrea. Kai is shocked that the celestial hero captured such an important figure, and Ririn, puzzled, recalls Alfrea as once kind and warm, until he decided elves, dwarves, and fairies should bow to the angels, sparking a revolt. She had accompanied the elder to appeal to Alfrea, but he refused and captured the elder. Kai wonders if an elf could directly challenge the angels and carry out the rescue. The priest agrees, but Phelan warns that it could be a trap, with elves and angels combining forces to crush the human resistance. To prove the priestess's honesty, Kubari offers her life, willing to accompany the men to the angels' palace. If they find Ririn has lied, they can kill Kubari at any time. Despite her brave offer, Fallon refuses, stating that the life of the elven priestess isn't worth more than the 6 human fighters and the 20 hostages. To balance the risk, Ririn insists on offering herself as collateral, despite Kubari's devastation over the potential loss of the Great Elder. Ririn is firm, saying it's the only way to avoid a war between celestial beings. She orders the nearby dwarves and fairies to hold off on attacking. Then Ririn summons the small fairy, Silk, who casts a spell that brings large waves closer to shore, providing a place for the humans to rest while details are discussed. As night falls, Kai watches Rin sleep by their campfire. Ririn, puzzled by the humans staying awake without lighting a fire, assures them that neither she nor any elf intends to attack. Kai relaxes slightly. Ririn then mentions she heard from Jean that the boy and the sleeping girl were the ones who defeated Vanessa, and asks if their methods could work against Alfrea. Once they arrive at the Palace of Angels, there may be a clash with the Celestial Lord. If no one can halt the Lord's power, everyone will perish. She rises and warns Kai that if he ever flees in fear, she won't let him leave the forest alive. Although she understands that Kai doesn't have the answers she's looking for, he still asks if she knows anything about a human called the Prophet Sid. The priestess is clueless, further diminishing Kei's hopes of uncovering the truth about this legend. He recalls that Vanessa mentioned the prophet's name and a global reincarnation Sid predicted, urging Kai to find whoever triggered it, as it would drastically alter the world. According to the Dark Empress, the culprit is likely one of the 3 remaining heroes. As dawn breaks, the humans gather in search of Unit A, designated to enter the Angel's Palace. Seki hopes that communication with headquarters will function during the mission since, as the elf noted, the palace sits atop a colossal tree and the humans can't even see it from their current position. Ririn conjures a teleportation trick to transport their new allies, leading Kai to ask if the elf is practicing this method against the humans. The cleric explains that no one fears humans, only demons, spirits, and mythical beasts. In response to this dismissive comment, Kai remarks that demons once thought the same. However, he adds that the angels likely have most of their forces at the border, so the palace may be weakly defended. As the man speaks with unwavering resolve, the elf admits they didn't defeat Vanessa by luck. Kai adds that he knows a human who single-handedly defeated the 4 heroes of the other races. With that, the spell activates, teleporting the group to the top of the tree where the Angel's Palace is located. The air is thick with the smell of fire and smoke, and burning angels surround the humans. Ririn notices the victims aren't dead, but Kai believes they should use the situation to their advantage as the path ahead is clear. Guided by the priestess, they navigate the palace's levels, something Fallon acknowledges would be impossible without her. However, as they move deeper, a small, cutting tornado attacks them, destroying the floor. At the source of this power stands an angel who recognizes an old acquaintance, Ririn. Seeing the war angel Vicious fills the elf with sorrow, realizing even the angels she trusted had betrayed her race. Vicious, now a servant of Alfrea, the Lord of the Heavens, declares that everything must follow his will. The Burm angels were traitors who opposed the Great Leader's orders. Vicious warns that the Great Elder of the Elves will soon be executed, serving as a warning to the other races that they must submit to the angels. Resisting this demand as well, Fallon leads Ashran and Saki in battle against the angel while Kai, Jean, and Ririn continue their mission. Viciously attempting to obstruct the humans' progress, the angel is thwarted by the shooters, successfully preventing her from reacting. It's absurd to think that this lesser race is challenging the angels, and Fallon sharply replies that they've heard enough of that before. On the floor above, the group assigned to continue the mission encounters another angel guarding the area. Rin seizes the entity's enormous hammer to avoid being crushed and hurls the enemy away. Ririn recognizes this being as Raffaello, who is enraged by the elf's defiance against his master. This time, Rin confidently states that she can handle the threat alone, urging the rest of the group to proceed without hesitation. The remaining 3 members advance to the next floor, where Ririn creates magical circles on each pillar. Kai realizes that Alfrea is protecting himself with numerous barriers, while Jean apologizes to him for leaving the battle against Vanessa to him. She promises to fight alongside him next time. Once the circles are inscribed, the elf activates her power and transports the duo to the location where the Great Elder was imprisoned. In addition to the Elder, Alfrea floated in the sky, demanding submission from the lesser beings who lack wings and must gaze upward at the heavens. According to him, all blessings descend from the heavens and are bestowed upon the earth, but he desires that only the angels receive these blessings. Meanwhile, Vicious chants a few words, casting a powerful wind spell that nearly cuts the fighters in half, but they leap just in time to avoid being sliced. With her flaming swords, Fallon charges at the entity, who doesn't underestimate her attack. After deflecting her strike, the angel notes that her swords appear to be made from dragon fangs, magical creatures so strong that weapons made from their parts can explode on impact, which is true for her opponent's blades. Fallon is surprised by how much her enemy knows, so Vicious explains that celestial beings are skilled in crafting such items. The swordswoman takes the chance to mention that Alfrea wants to enslave the Celestials, turning their talents into mere tools for him. However, Vicious is blinded by her loyalty to her race's leader and filled with hatred for what she calls inferior races. One floor above, Rin is locked in a fierce fight with Raffaello. The angel admits he didn't expect his opponent to break through his divine defenses. Realizing this, he begins to see Rin as a serious threat. Rin angrily replies that he's lying because her attacks haven't been effective at all, and she hates his calm attitude, always looking down on her like all angels do with celestials and other races. Unmoved by her words, Raffaello shrugs and asks what kind of being she is. Rin admits she doesn't know, but doesn't matter as long as she has Kai by her side. Meanwhile, the supreme leader of the Celestials plans to execute the Great Elder of the Elves, leaving Ririn even more disappointed with the angel's actions, as he was once kind to her. In her mind, she shouts that Alfrea has no authority to govern the Celestials and that she herself will be the one to send him to his demise. With that, she charges at the angel, who counters with his Magnificat ability, a chime that summons spells like a crimson blade that almost strikes the priestess. However, Kai intervenes just in time, using his code holder power to dismantle the enemy's magic. Without showing any surprise, Alfrea questions whether this young man is truly human or an elf in disguise, since he's defending an elven cleric. Kai asserts that he is entirely human. Alfrea admits he can't comprehend why someone would save a being of another race, so Kai points out that the death of such an important elven figure would stir deep animosity among the elves toward humans. Alfrea responds that the existence of Kai and Ririn is vastly different, stating that even with Kai's varied judgments, he would still be reduced to ashes like the elf, something that didn't happen because of this unusual sword. Kai seizes the moment to explain that this weapon was strong enough to withstand the magic of the Dark Empress Vanessa and can therefore confront Alfrea as well. Hearing this, the Celestial bursts into laughter and calls Vanessa a vile demon, so pitiful that she was defeated by a mere human. Unfazed, Kai doubts that Alfrea is in any position to mock the demon heroine since, at least, she didn't attempt to execute her own followers like the angel did. Yet the angel doesn't lose his smile, explaining that it was his decision after all. He is a divine blessing, the most noble and radiant star that exists, with no intention of considering anyone who disobeys his authority as a subordinate. Jean, weary of his arrogant speech, fires a magical arrow from her moon longbow. Alfrea manages to block it, but the force of the projectile shatters his shield, sending a shard of flying that cuts his face, causing him to bleed slightly. The angel asks the human if she understands the consequences of wielding an elven bow with her mortal body. However, the commander believes the life force being drained from her is a small price to pay for victory. She quickly fires another arrow at Alfrea, who counters with a celestial ray. The arrow ricochets off the angel's magic and bounces back towards Jean, but she remains unharmed, protected by her holy light garb. With that, the celestial hero vows not to forgive this human for using the elves' sacred equipment. He then opens a magic circle in the sky, summoning a barrage of thunderbolts. Ririn calls upon the shield of the third princess to ward off the attack, and she and Kai rush to free the Great Elder. Alfrea attempts to stop them with the divine punishment spear, but when Ririn tries to use the shield of the fourth princess, the spear pierces through it. Kai deflects the attack with his sword, and Ririn seizes the opportunity to strike the crystal with her dagger. However, her weapon shatters upon contact with the material imprisoning the Elder. Confronted with the situation, the priestess contemplates the coffin sealing the Great Elder, the spear that penetrates her defenses, the bell that summons lightning, and the staff that conjures a red blade. Amazed, the elf cannot comprehend how this angel can wield such a diverse range of magic simultaneously. Even as a hero, Alfrea should have exhausted his mana by now, but that doesn't appear to be the case. She wonders if all this power caused the angel to change suddenly, but he disagrees, saying he hasn't changed. In his view, the time for the rapture has arrived. During this event, a new subordinate will replace Alfrea, and this subordinate is Rasterizer, the robotic woman who attacked Kai, Rin, and Vanessa. Meanwhile, Rin struggles against Raffaello's power but shows no signs of surrendering. Still strong, she delivers a punch to her opponent's helmet, shattering it into pieces. Similarly, Fallon fights fiercely to defeat Vicious. The officer commands Saki and Ashran to fire at the angel's wings, but he evades the bullets. Ashran goes a step further, throwing a grenade that nearly hits its mark. Vicious narrowly escapes but is left vulnerable to Fen's charge, who finds herself facing the angel's wings, the source of their mana. Upon hearing Fane mention this, the angel is puzzled by how a human could know this, and Fallon reveals that a man from another world informed her. Returning to Rin after beating Raffaello, he backs down and tells her to proceed because her power might be the key to freeing the Great Elder. Confused, Rin asks if he has switched sides, and he explains that both he and Vicious have noticed a change in Alfrea's behavior, and have been waiting for this moment to try and turn the tide. Likewise, Vicious allows the humans to leave but insists that Fallon apologize to Ririn and the Great Elder on her behalf for her actions. Fan dismisses the angel's demand, saying that if Vicious wants to apologize, she should do it herself and show the humans the way. Meanwhile, Alfrea commands Rasterizer to eliminate the enemies. She unleashes a powerful spell that sends Jean flying through the air. Jean doesn't back down, she fires another arrow, but it does no harm to the strange machine. We then see that Rin caught Jean in midair, allowing her to shoot even after being thrown. Alfrea mocks the creature for its grotesque appearance, but Rin ignores her, more focused on Rasterizer ahead. Kai asks the angel about this talk of world reincarnation, but he seems clueless. Frustrated, Kai asks if he knows anything about Sid. Upon hearing the name, Alfrea's eyes tremble, and he admits he received something from that human. Suddenly, Rasterizer surprises everyone by wrapping her arm around the celestial hero's neck. The machine's system detects unexpected fluctuations from Alfrea because of the name Sid. Rasterizer then executes Code Zero to remove Alfrea's presence from the world and replace the hero. Alfrea is sucked into a portal, leaving everyone stunned. Kai recalls that a similar thing almost happened to Vanessa. As Rasterizer withdraws into another portal, Alfrea reappears within a strange energy spiral that distorts his features, revealing the angel's avatar with dark wings. This makes Kai remember that world reincarnation activated when he was brought before Jean in her original world. The world was rewritten, and a hero has now been replaced. Alfrea feels more important than ever, convinced he is the only one in the heavens and that everything else must burn. As he speaks, he unleashes a powerful spell against his enemies. Rin defends with her barrier, but it can't withstand the pressure and shatters, causing an explosion. The impact knocks down Rinen and Ririn, while Kai falls to his knees using his sword for support. The priestess notices that Alfrea cast magic without using any items, to which he explains it is a divine gift meant to showcase his power. Ririn tries to snap him out of it, saying he's losing his mind and his life because Celestials take pride in using items for spellcasting. However, this angel ignores tradition and enjoys casting magic with his hands. Annoyed, Alfreya attacks again, prompting Ririn to gather all the guardian princesses to summon the sixth princess, forming a six-layered magical barrier. The angel's spell breaks through the first two shields but stops at the third. The elf claims that no matter how strong Alfreya is, no attack can break through all seven guardian princesses. But Alfreya proves her wrong by using the Divine Sword King's gift, a blade that easily cuts through the shields and strikes Ririn. Kai steps in to block the attack, reminding Ririn that she believes in the return of the true Alfreya. However, the angel ignores him, questioning what a mere human could know about it. Kai responds, saying he understands that Alfreya is no longer the one Ririn worships or the leader of the Celestials, but a mere imitation of a hero. Jean and Ririn fear Alfreya's reaction, while Rin, still recovering from the explosion, calls out Kay's name. The warrior faces off against the celestial hero wielding Sid's sword. He notices that Alfreya's sword regenerates each time it breaks, which is why Ririn's barrier only worked for a moment. The sword renews itself when passing through barriers. Confident in his abilities, Alfreya claims his power is divine and unstoppable, dismissing the need for magical items. He believes his celestial status grants him the right to dominate lesser beings with the divine gift of the Sword King. Kai notes that true heroes protect their people, but Alfreya dismisses this as weak rhetoric. Determined to prove human resilience, Kai parries Alfreya's heavy strikes with Sid's blade, nearly landing a blow as the celestial narrowly dodges. Jean wonders if Kai is the better swordsman, and Ririn believes he is, but with reservations. Tiring of the duel, Alfreya discards his weapon and collapses the entire Palace of Angels. Ririn asks Jean for help to defeat the Celestial Lord. Kai strikes at Alfreya's magical barrier, managing to inflict a wound on his abdomen. Enraged, Alfreya grabs Kai by the neck. Despite this, Kai still hopes the Celestial might regain his reason, as Vanessa once did. It appears this time, Ririn won't summon the seven princesses along with Jean, who had prepared her long bow of the true moon. With only one chance to shoot, the commander focuses and fires, hitting the target with immense force in the left shoulder. The impact shatters that part of the angel's body, but he remains standing, enraged and boasting of his superior power, which radiates from him like a golden aura. Kai spins the angel and lands a punch on the wound, finally bringing him down. A massive energy burst erupts from Alfreya's body, along with dark beams that had been controlling him. The angel, visibly changed, remarks on the horror of losing his wings and falling to the ground. Both fearful and hopeful, Ririn calls out to the Celestial Lord, who warns her that the place will soon collapse and urges everyone to flee. He declares he no longer deserves the concern of his followers, but Ririn disagrees. As the crystal containing the Great Elder shatters, the Celestial Lord asks the priestess to inform everyone that it was all his fault. Kai notices similarities between the angel's behavior and Vanessa's when she was defeated. Alfreya admits that the prophet Sid had entrusted him with a message about something meant to exist, though he never understood it. He recalls that the force behind the world's reincarnation is hatred, and that Kay's risk to save an elf likely triggered the taboo code, meaning he must destroy the hatred consuming this world. As Alfreya speaks, his arm crumbles like sand, and his remains are gently carried away by the wind, completely dissolving the legendary Celestial Lord. Below in the palace, Vicious watches the fragments of his master float through the air amid the Elder's magical influence. Raffaello laments that he couldn't help while his master was being corrupted. Kai asks when the celestial leader's behavior started changing, suspecting it began when Rasterizer appeared. Raffaello believes his leader distanced himself from his allies after that creature emerged, and Kai is puzzled why Alfreya thought Rasterizer was his subordinate, especially since the machine attacked him. Additionally, that strange creature appeared after he rescued Rin, as if monitoring her. In a nightmare, Rin, a woman of unknown race, is pursued by Rasterizer and the prophet Sid. The man asks if the machine was responsible for this, but then he and Rin are attacked. Rin wakes up frightened and embraces Kai. He confesses he was worried because she wasn't waking up, but she reassures him she's fine, explaining she was trapped in a nightmare. Jean interrupts, and Rin, startled, asks how long the commander has been there. Jean reveals she was there the whole time, but since Rin could only see Kai, she didn't notice. Jean reminds them she asked to speak with them after the fight and mentions that Fallon warned her to be cautious because everyone sensed Rin wasn't human. Rin admits she doesn't know her race, and Kai apologizes for not telling the commander earlier. She questions if they feared she would burn Rin at the stake for the truth. Kai remarks that only a resistance commander would act this way, and Jean somewhat agrees, suspecting Rin might be a demon spy. However, she recalls that Rin, a mysterious girl of unknown race, had challenged the demon heroine and even saved Jean herself. Given these actions, Jean feels compelled to trust her. Kai reaffirms that Rin is aligned with the resistance, and Rin confirms this, saying she's content as long as Kai is by her side. She's pleased to have gained Jean's trust. The leader of the resistance decides to keep Rin's non-human nature a secret for now to avoid causing confusion among the fighters. Putting that aside, Jean asks to touch Rin's wing and, discovering it's ticklish, playfully teases her. As dawn breaks, the Great Elder proposes a pact. Within a year, humans will no longer be allowed in the forest and celestial beings will be barred from human cities. Jean agrees and takes responsibility for informing the Io rebel army. The Elder seizes the opportunity to form a truce and offers gifts to the humans as a goodwill gesture. The fully restored longbow of the moon is returned to the resistance commander, and Kai receives the bullets he used in battle to counter enemy magic. Kai mentions these as modified elven bullets, but Raren explains that the dwarves crafted them after discovering Kay's unique ammunition. She adds that she fused the iris ore for these bullets and suggests they be called Holy Light Elven bullets. Kai is genuinely impressed that real elves made his equipment. The Elder admits that the Celestials would have fallen into civil war without the human support. She asks if Jean and her troops plan to fight the spirits and mythical beasts in the West. Jean apologizes, saying she can't share internal information with other races. The Elder agrees with the decision but notes that the Urza Federation will need to pass through celestial territory and will require a guide. Jean is puzzled by the offer, so the Elder explains that she needs to understand why Alfreya changed. About 10 years ago, the Celestial Lord began acting differently after confronting an intruder from the west. Raphaela, the King of the Fang's wrath, witnessed their meeting, which seemed more like a plot than a fight. Shortly after, Rasterizer appeared with Alfreya. The Elder wants to uncover the origin of this interaction and orders Raren to guide the humans. The priestess is upset by the decision, feeling frustrated. Rin teases Raren, implying she has feelings for Kai. Raren, offended, asks Kai to defend her, but he simply assures her that he's glad she was chosen to accompany the troops. Hearing this, the elf feels deeply embarrassed and stays defensive. However, the Elder had already made her decision and showed no intention of reversing it. After the meeting, Jean returns to Zephyr, asking him to inform the Io army about the truce between humans and Celestials. She thanks Dain for the generous provisions for the expedition, but he dismisses her gratitude, stating that the cooperation between the Urza and Io armies has failed. Zephyr finds this illogical, but the King of Io argues that although defeating the Celestial leader and securing a truce seems like a victory for humans, it also paints them as a significant threat. As a result, spirits and mythical beasts might become more hostile, necessitating cooperation among all rebel armies. One of these armies is led by Balmung, the Lion King, a veteran hero and an old acquaintance of Jean. Jean mentions she owes Balmung a debt, leading Dan to assume Balmung is more trustworthy than himself, though Jean disagrees. The Io leader warns that surprise attacks are no longer feasible, and suggests forming alliances with Balmung and other rebel leaders. Fallon then apologizes for the harshness but advises Dan to set aside his ego if he wants to play a key role in humanity's leadership. He admits he'd rather leave this duty to Jean, but since the commander declared she won't lead humanity, Dan insists the Urza Federation withdraw before the spirits and mythical beasts attack. Meanwhile, far away, the King of Fangs and Kyuko, the Sovereign of Spirits, discuss the defeat of Vanessa and Alfreya. Wrath believes Vanessa fell due to accepting the superficial power of Rasterizer. Now only the two of them remain of the four heroes. Kyuko accuses the King of Fangs of lying, realizing that he understands the situation. She knows that the spirit race will vanish by the end of today. As soon as Kyuko hears the news, she jets off trying to escape, but Wrath quickly follows and knocks her down, attempting to stomp her in revenge. Kyuko turns into a water blob, encircling Wrath to suffocate her, but Wrath ignites a fiery aura that repels the water. Unfazed, Kyuko grabs Wrath and drags her through the forest, slamming her into the ground hard, leaving a crater. Wrath seems outmatched, but she has a trick. Rasterizer emerges from her back, seizing Kyuko by the face and trying to execute a fatal move. Kyuko realizes she's ambushed but can't escape and explodes. Wrath, thinking Kyuko is defeated, praises Rasterizer for finishing the job. Meanwhile, Kai and the others head into the forest, surprised by the wide roads. Riordan explains these paths are made by massive hedgehogs, rarely seen but 10 meters wide, gold ring collectors, and powerful enough to crush cars. Saki and Asherin grow concerned, but Raren reassures them the chances of being squished are slim, and this is the quickest route south, so they must take the risk. Rin expresses discomfort, but not because of dangerous hedgehogs. Her concern is that Riordan is seated in the front with Kai. Riordan explains it's necessary since she's guiding them through the forest, and Kai agrees. They're traveling under the guise of Raren being a representative from the IO Foundation. To avoid causing alarm about her being an elf, Raren reveals that her clothes are enchanted with illusion magic, making her appear human to anyone who doesn't already know her. At that moment, Jean contacts Kai via radio for a status update. Everything seems fine, so Jean asks Raren how long it will take to reach the Yurun Foundation. Raren estimates about 3 days if they maintain their current speed, and notes a nearby spot where they can camp for the night. Jean is pleased with the progress, but then Fallon spots something odd. She points out an area of the forest that looks as if it's been eaten away, suspecting a mythical beast might be responsible. This seems strange as there's still an elf-controlled AO Foundation territory. It appears mythical creatures have begun crossing borders. Meanwhile, back at the battle site, Wrath surveys the shattered remains of Kyuko, and it seems clear she has died. There aren't enough Kyuko traces for Wrath to be certain, so she assumes Kyuko escaped with her core. Though frustrated she couldn't finish the job, she decides to let it go, knowing there will be more chances to kill Kyuko later. Meanwhile, everyone rejoins and they make camp in a forest clearing. Everyone enjoys a refreshing soak in a hot spring. After Kai finishes his turn, he's assigned to guard Jean's tent while the girls bathe. He worries they might argue, and sure enough, Raren and Rin soon start bickering about whether Milkers or Flat is superior. Jean interrupts, telling them she has something serious to discuss. She had been talking with Kai about the code holder and world reincarnation, and while Kai doesn't know much, he confirms the code holder isn't of human origin. Jean warns that using it could be dangerous, but Kai argues it's riskier for her to rely on an elven weapon that drains her life. Jean agrees but insists she can't stop using it, as without it, she'd barely be able to fight. More pressing is the matter of Rasterizer, which has repeatedly appeared, mortally wounding Alfreya and being present when Kai fought Vanessa. Kai has no idea what's going on since there's no record of it in his timeline. From what he's observed, though, it seems like Rasterizer is watching the heroes and attacks if they hear the name Sid and start remembering things. Jean wonders what kind of relationship Rasterizer has with the remaining heroes, whether it's an ally or enemy, and knows they won't find out without confronting one. For now, they'll have to keep fighting heroes to stop the race war. Back in the present, Raren agrees that Rasterizer is a big threat, especially since it changed Alfreya and they know nothing about it. They decide to stay alert for Rasterizer during future battles. However, Rin is terrified of the thought of encountering it again. For some reason, she's frozen in fear whenever she sees it. Jean apologizes for bringing up such a frightening topic, but suddenly, they feel a violent tremor, signaling trouble in the camp. 2 soldiers are facing a mythical beast and start firing at it, but their attacks are useless. Kai arrives and identifies it as a behemoth. He charges at it, shooting a special bullet that actually harms it. Fallon joins the fight, and together, they try to outmaneuver the creature. Despite injuring it, they can't defeat it, so Fallon uses a flashbang to blind the beast and orders a retreat. Kai is shocked his modified Drake bullets didn't kill it, as they were specifically made for this purpose. That's when he realizes this behemoth is far stronger than the ones from his world. The girl returns, prompting Jean to order the troops into formation to deal with the threat. They need stronger weapons, but have no heavy artillery since they didn't expect to face a mythical beast. Fallon offers to buy time for Jean to get the soldiers to safety, but Jeannie refuses to retreat. She asks Kai if there's another way to defeat it. Kai agrees, explaining the beast has a weak spot, a magical organ. The challenge is how to attack it. Jean recalls they're in the Celestial Forest and thinks Raren can help with the terrain. Together, they devise a plan to lure the beast deeper into the forest. Once close, Fallon signals Kai to release paralytic mushroom spores, disorienting the beast. Rin casts a powerful lightning spell to stun it, and Kai delivers a point-blank shot to its head. But the beast keeps fighting, forcing Kai to protect Rin from its attack. Before it can do more damage, Raren activates a teleportation circle under the creature, sending it away. Raren is pleased that the plan worked and the beast is now burning. Jean feels victorious but notices something wrong with Kai, and her smile fades. As Rin rushes to check on Kai, she finds him standing injured with a deep wound in his shoulder. He had gotten hurt while protecting her earlier, and Rin blames herself for it. Kai explains that the beast could still sense magic, so when Rin cast her spell, it tracked her. Kai couldn't stand by and let her be attacked, making his injury inevitable. Though Kai is clearly in pain, he's more worried about Rin and asks if she's okay. She reassures him she's fine, and Kai is relieved. Jean and Raren arrive to help patch him up, and they take Kai back to camp for proper care. While unconscious, Kai dreams of a mysterious voice calling him from the forest, urging him to wake up, claiming he is chosen by fate and connected to a forbidden code. When Kai wakes up, he realizes Jean had the same dream. Kai recognizes the voice and knows the location is in the Elven Forest. He asks Raren to guide them there. Meanwhile, Ashran and Seiki are preparing to leave when they get a message from the group informing them that their plans have changed. Everyone waits while Saki plans to use the break for extra time in the hot springs. Meanwhile, the group follows Raren into the forest, where she agrees to take them to the structure Kai saw in his dream. She thinks it's nothing special, just an old stone statue she visited out of curiosity about human architecture. Jean is surprised that humans built something so far out. Raren explains it wasn't made by celestials, so only humans could have done it. Kai realizes it's a megalith, a type of structure from his world, once used to imprison other races, though none of the others recognize it. He explains these buildings were called graveyards in his world. They were meant to hide powerful beings like the code holder. Upon reaching the megalith, a mysterious voice invites them inside, reassuring them there's nothing to fear, apart from being disembodied. The voice calls this the center of the world and welcomes them as those chosen by fate. Raren, unable to hear the voice, asks what's happening. Kai is surprised she didn't notice, and Rin enters, explaining that the voice came from within. Kai tells Raren to stand guard outside while the others proceed. Inside, Kai observes that the structure resembles graveyards, and Rin senses a powerful force similar to her own magic. They continue down the hall and reach a large room where a statue stands. Jean wonders if this is the one Raren mentioned, speculating it could be an ancient temple, though Kai isn't sure. The voice returns, greeting them as children of fate, and they realize it's coming from the statue. The voice assures them it's powerless and reveals it hails from a world where the War of Five Races ended, waiting for someone to replace Sid. Shocked, Kai questions how she knows Sid, and she replies she knows him better than he does. Kai approaches, noticing the figure looks like the one with Sid in the portrait, and realizes she is the prophetic god Asura Soraka, the praying god who could see the future. Jean is confused as Kai recalls mentioning Sid, the one who defeated the four heroes and ended the War of the Five Races. Sid was known as a prophet, having received a divine message from the god Asura Soraka, who also gave him the shining sword. Kai admits it's hard to believe as he had heard of Sid, but thought the prophetic god was just a myth. The god claims humans have worshipped her for ages, and during the war she created the code holder to protect humanity. Kai suddenly remembers the voice he heard when he pulled out the code holder and realizes it was hers. Pleased, she says she's glad he remembers and that he, not Sid, received the code holder in this world. Jean asks what the god wants from them, and the god reveals she has a prophecy for them. She used all of her power creating the code holder and is now unable to prevent the world's reincarnation. When Kai asks what that means, the god admits she doesn't fully know but explains the world has been overwritten by false history, erasing Sid's existence. Jean is stunned, wondering if their struggles were for nothing. The god clarifies that the world's fate has been reversed, but the change is not yet complete. Jean, confused, asks what the world would look like if it were completely reversed. Kai guesses that humanity would have been wiped out, and God confirms this, saying he's right. However, humans are still alive thanks to Jean's efforts, as they are now fighting back, making their struggle the only truth in this false world. Relieved, Jean hears God give her a mission to fix this world, asking her to become humanity's new hero. Jean, bewildered, questions why she was chosen. God explains that she has watched humans suffer under the four races, and Jean, with her potential, stood out as a worthy replacement for Sid. Kai could have been chosen too, as he defeated the demon hero, but his strength alone wasn't enough, and he wasn't meant to be in this world. Jean then asks what her role is, and God tells her nothing has changed. She must continue leading her followers in battle, defeat the four heroes and the Rasterizer, and the world will be restored. Kai inquires if God knows what the Rasterizer is, but she admits she doesn't, as it didn't exist in the original history. Jean then asks what will happen after defeating the heroes and the Rasterizer, and God responds that it depends on how deeply the world has been altered by the reincarnation. No one can truly say how much the world has been altered, nor is it clear if it will return to its original form once humans achieve victory. The god tells them they'll find out in time, but for now they should focus on winning the war. She expresses high hopes for Kai and Rin, urging them to become humanity's new heroes. As they leave, Kai notices something troubling Rin and asks what's wrong. Rin admits she couldn't tell if the voice was dangerous or comforting. It gave her mixed feelings. Kai reassures her that if the voice is tied to the one who created the code holder, it likely isn't an enemy of humanity. They exit the building, where Rin asks what took so long. They apologize, and Jean brushes it off, mentioning they just found a strange stone statue. As they move ahead, Rin spots a winter sage fruit tree and asks Rin to gather some, explaining it's a spiritual medicine that heals wounds. Meanwhile, Kai tells Jean not to worry about her new title, promising to stay by her side until the end. He vows to end the War of the Five Races, no matter the cost. Jean agrees, saying the prophecy doesn't matter, they have to do what's necessary. Kai notes that Jean is the same here as she was in his old world, though she still struggles to believe in the existence of another world. She asks him what kind of relationship they had in his world, and he says they were colleagues and childhood friends. Jean wonders if he'd like to be friends here too. Kai agrees but adds he doesn't think it will change anything. Jean laughs, noticing he's the only one unfazed by the idea. Just then, Ririn and Rin arrive carrying winter sage fruits. Later, they're traveling by car, and Ririn makes juice from the fruit for Kai. Rin warns him not to drink it because it smells horrible, fearing it could be dangerous. Ririn insists it's fine, taking a sip herself but immediately vomiting from the terrible taste. Trying to save face, she argues that the worse it tastes, the more powerful it is, and serves some to Kai. Despite Rin's protests, he drinks it. As he does, Jean announces they're nearing the Yulin Federation border and tells everyone to stay alert. Seki scans the area and spots a strange triangular building. Based on her description, Kai thinks it could be a graveyard, so they decide to investigate. Jean recalls that similar buildings were used to imprison the 4 races in Kei's world, and Kai believes this is where the spirit race was sealed. Suddenly, Rin warns they're surrounded. Slimy creatures fall from the sky, and everyone takes battle positions, but their guns have little effect on the creatures. Jean quickly orders everyone to retreat to the vehicles. But while Fallon keeps fighting, Kai moves to assist her. He points out that spirits can only be destroyed by burning their bodies, but they lack the necessary weapons. Just then, soldiers equipped with incinerator guns arrive and burn the spirits. It becomes clear they are from the Yulin Federation resistance. As the remaining spirits merge into a massive entity, the resistance leader swiftly destroys it and approaches, checking if the Urza rebel army members are unharmed. The leader, Balmung, greets Fallon, noting it's been a long time since they last met. He also greets Jean, who thanks him for the timely rescue. Balmung praises their bravery, but as Fallon tries to slip away, he stops her, teasing her for knowing his long-windedness. Just then, Rin warns that the spirits are still nearby. The spirits surround them in a body-formed bubble, and the soldiers' weapons prove ineffective. Kai tries one of his special bullets but fails to break through. Ririn comments that using elven magic might complicate things, but this gives Kai an idea. He tells Jean he'll create an opening for them to escape. As everyone rushes back to the vehicles, Kai fires through the sunroof, aiming at the spirit barrier. The shot opens a path, allowing them to escape. It turns out Kai had used bullets given to him by the dwarves, and he is amazed by their power. Balmung, impressed, remarks that Jean has an excellent subordinate, but she corrects him, stating that Kai is her friend, not just a subordinate. She then suggests starting their strategy meeting, and Balmung agrees, though he mentions needing to make a stop first. They arrive at a lake, where Balmung explains that they originally came to investigate the area, noting that this place, the Grand Art Plains, didn't have a lake before. Rin then reveals it isn't a lake at all but a spirit. As they watch, the water shifts and transforms, revealing Kyuko, the hero of the spirits, who, with a sinister expression, declares they are in her way. Kyuko blasts a high-pressure stream of water at Kai, forcing him to dodge to avoid being vaporized in one hit. She then shapes the water into a giant wrecking ball and smashes a vehicle, prompting Kai to go on the offensive. He slices Kyuko in half with his sword, and to ensure she stays down, he orders Balmung's soldiers to unleash all their firepower. They set Kyuko's upper half ablaze, but instead of being weakened, she absorbs the flames and regenerates. As she prepares for another powerful attack, Kai quickly warns everyone to retreat. Moments later, Kyuko unleashes a massive wall of fire, forcing Kai to use the code holder to shield them. Strangely, Kyuko recognizes the code holder, even though it's her first time meeting Kai and spirits aren't supposed to speak. As soon as she starts recalling memories, it triggers rasterizer sensors, signaling that action must be taken. On the battlefield, Kai is puzzled, having heard someone speak since spirits shouldn't be able to talk. Kyuko interrupts, asking why he has the code holder, which should belong to a specific person. Though Shaka Spirit can talk, even the legendary hero of spirits, Kai presses her for more information, wondering if she means Sid. Kyuko was unsure before, but now that Kai mentions Sid's name, she remembers everything clearly, especially how much she despises Sid. She sees Sid as the enemy of all spirits, but also acknowledges that he made her wiser. Kyuko had learned the human language just to understand what Sid said while imprisoning her, something about reincarnation only being the start of the real disaster. Kai has more questions, but as he looks at Kyuko, he sees Rasterizer's portal appear behind her. Rasterizer jumps out, grabs her head, and prepares to execute the Zero Code, erasing her for mentioning Sid. However, it's Kyuko's first encounter with Rasterizer, and she easily escapes and counters the attack. Realizing it won't be an easy ambush, Rasterizer flees. After Rasterizer retreats, Kyuko reforms and lands back on the ground. She could keep fighting the humans, but decides against it, telling them she's done for the day. Balmung finds this suspicious, accusing her of deception, but Kyuko calls him foolish and proposes a truce. Balmung shouts that she attacked first, but Kyuko claims it was a misunderstanding, thinking they were ambushing her while she regenerated. Kai wonders what left her so damaged, and Kyuko explains she had been fighting Wrath earlier, a fierce battle, as Wrath was incredibly strong. She recalls that Sid used to call the monster Rasterizer, and while the heroes all want the best for their people, Rasterizer isn't aligned with any race, making it extremely dangerous. She describes it as pure hatred, an enemy to all life and something that must be stopped. Balmung is skeptical of Kyuko's claims, but Jean assures him it's true. Rasterizer is a far greater threat than the spirits, having attacked humans, demons, and celestials alike. A ceasefire is in everyone's best interest. Balmung hesitates as he's fought the spirits for so long and still views them as enemies. Jean, however, has already negotiated peace with the demons and celestials. She doesn't intend to forgive their treatment of humanity, but she believes non-aggression pacts will stop further bloodshed. Reluctantly, Balmung agrees to the truce. With nothing left to do, Kyuko announces her departure. Kai asks where she's headed, and she points to the Black Pyramid in the distance. She suddenly recalls the graveyard where she first encountered Rasterizer shortly after Sid vanished. The other heroes reacted differently. Vanessa scorned it, Alfreya was revolted, and Kyuko was wary, though initially indifferent. Wrath was the only one who truly accepted Rasterizer, and they've worked together ever since. When Kai asks if Wrath is doing it to grow stronger, Kyuko assures him that's not the reason. Wrath is too proud to depend on someone else's power, so he likely has another goal besides just winning the war. By now, Jean and the group are ready to investigate the graveyard. Kyuko asks Kai to lead them since he's familiar with such structures. When they arrive, it's the same type of demon graveyard Kai encountered in the Urza Federation. He guides them to the room where he previously found the code holder. As Kai inspects the pedestal, the code holder reacts and he hears a recorded message from Sid, who apologizes for failing to protect Rin and asks the holder to take his place. A bright light projects onto the wall, opening a portal that pulls everyone inside. They soon find themselves on the platform where Kai found Rin. Balmung and Fallon are uneasy, sensing a trap, and ask Kai for an explanation, but he's just as confused, having been here before without uncovering its secrets. Since standing around won't help, Kyuko starts walking toward a powerful energy source she senses. The group follows her and soon reaches another platform, where they discover something surprising, a statue of Alfreya. After examining it, Ririn senses magic and suspects it's the real Alfreya trapped in a petrification spell. She thinks she can break the spell with enough time, but Balmung is still against the ceasefire and wants to destroy the celestial hero. Rin stops him and Kyuko examines the statue, realizing it's not a typical petrification. It looks like Alfreya is frozen in place, likely by the Zero Code. Just then, Rasterizer appears, saying intruders have been detected and starts a defense protocol to protect Alfreya's sealed body. After scanning, Rasterizer identifies 3 people with the forbidden word Sid and prioritizes them for destruction, teleporting the others away. Rin worries, but Kai thinks they're fine since Rasterizer excluded them from the destruction and likely sent them back to the graveyard. After hearing Rasterizer, Kai realizes it's targeting people with memories of Sid, seeing them as obstacles to its plan. For now, they can only fight back. Jean and the others were sent to fields outside the graveyard, but Jean starts heading back, determined to go through the portal again to help Kai. Balmung asks if she really thinks she can stand up to Rasterizer, and though Jean isn't sure, she has a last resort in mind. Ririn realizes Jean plans to use the full power of her elven gear, and warns her that it will drastically shorten her life. Besides, the portal to that dimension is already closed, so Jean can't go back. Jean asks what she should do, and Ririn suggests they need a plan. Balmung agrees, saying they'll return when they're better prepared. Meanwhile, Kai, Rin, and Kyuko are still fighting Rasterizer. Kyuko attacks with water, but Rasterizer erases it using the Zero Code. Kai tries to strike while it's distracted, but can't do much damage. While Kai keeps Rasterizer occupied, Kyuko asks Rin why she's not helping. Rin admits she's too terrified to move. With no time to convince her, Kyuko tells Rin to at least use her magic if she can't fight. Kyuko absorbs some energy through Rin's hand, and after Kai is separated from Rasterizer, she traps it in ice and shatters it. Kai is amazed by her power, especially since her ice attack seemed fatal. However, Rasterizer revives through a portal. Kai finds it odd that Rasterizer could recover so easily from a deadly attack, but surrendered quickly when fighting Kyuko and Vanessa. This makes him realize that Rasterizer can only regenerate within this dimension. Kyuko asks if there's a way to escape, and Kai explains he used the code holder to tear a hole in the dimension last time. Although Kyuko dislikes relying on it, they have no other option. Before escaping, Kyuko grabs Alfreya, which makes Rasterizer panic as Alfreya is a priority target. They start running and Kyuko shoots fire at Rasterizer, but it reflects the flames back at them. Kai uses the code holder to block it, accidentally creating a dimensional rift. They quickly jump through to escape, with Rasterizer chasing them. Kai weakens Rasterizer with the code holder and Kyuko finishes it off with a lightning strike, reducing it to ash. Meanwhile, Rin works at a makeshift forge, upgrading their weapons as normal bullets are ineffective against Rasterizer. Suddenly, a loud boom echoes from the graveyard, leaving everyone confused. After Rasterizer turned to ash, Kai and Kyuko thought it was over, but a tendril emerged from the portal. Across the plains, Riordan stood frozen, sensing an overwhelming magical force. This was Rasterizer Aspect 2, the same version that trapped Rin in another dimension before Kai saved her. It's far stronger than the previous form and declares it will erase them all. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out this video about a magicless boy who trains hard to impress a baddie in a magic academy.